Good afternoon, Tom Ginn, host of G Force. G is for gratitude. We will be right back. Good afternoon, Tom Ginn, G Force. G is for gratitude. When we look at our lives and the things around us, I found through my experience and being coached and study that gratitude is one of the most powerful principles we can apply in our life. We can turn to it at any minute and change the perspectives. I call gratitude the mortar between the bricks of our lives. In our lives, we have all the beautiful things and experiences that bring us happiness and joys. And we also have those sides of our lives that bring us hurt, sorrow, disappointment, struggles, challenges. And when we go to a place of gratitude, you can't occupy a negative and a positive thought or an image at the same time. So it gives you time to reflect and be grateful, because the moment you have right now and being grateful for will determine what happens next. And I believe gratitude is one of those principles that if you understand it and apply it and make it part of your daily routine from the moment you wake up to until you retire at the end of the day, you can radically change the outcomes you're getting in your life. So gratitude is a very powerful word, powers your potential. And today's guest, I'm really excited, and I'll just say this premise here a little bit, is I was doing a presentation after the passing of Bob Proctor. And Ray found us on this live stream, and Bob Proctor is my personal mentor. My wife and I are both certified with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And Ray made some comments, and we connected, and I'm glad we did, because this person got a great story. And today, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to talk a little bit about the struggles that he went through to where he is today. And then when we look at our situations, many times we will say, I would never trade my situation for somebody else's. Great story, and I'm honored to have him come on. I just hope that everybody will take this information and share it out. Let me put up there, share this information out, because we never know whose lives we can touch. So without any more further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest, Ray Chobanian. I hope I said that, Ray, correctly. We were rehearsing that earlier, so I probably butchered it. But forgive me, my friend. So, Ray, good afternoon. Thanks for being here on G-Force. And the whole premise today is gratitude, telling your story. We all have different struggles in life, and your story is pretty powerful, and where you are today. And I believe it will give those that are challenged, that with what you were challenged with, hopefully that will touch somebody out there, that there is hope. There is a path to changing your life. And so with no further ado, Ray, just introduce yourself, where you're from, and we'll go from there.
All right. Thanks so much for having me today, Tom. I am very grateful for this opportunity. And yes, before I say anything else, the aim of this is to inspire somebody else that's either going through a struggle like this, knows someone who's going through it, has gone through it, or a past struggle maybe you need to sort out, or maybe a future struggle that is a possibility. So yeah, my name is Ray Chobanian. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, United States, and the land of Andrew Carnegie, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, I grew up not too far from Pittsburgh. I was born in Virginia. It's another state here in the United States, and when I was 4 or 5, we moved to a smaller town here in Pennsylvania, and then I've been living like in Pittsburgh for going on 3 years now. So anyway, I'm very familiar with Pittsburgh. So, but let me get started a little bit. So yeah, basically my story is one of a lot of pain, suffering, addiction, and then overcoming that to a great degree. So I'd say from my early years up until 12, I'd say I was a really good kid. I wasn't like a hassle to deal with. I well behaved. I listened. I felt really happy all the time. Had pretty decent parents. You know, they weren't abusive or anything. They really did their best with what they knew and had, and I'm very grateful for that as well. They weren't bad parents. I always had what I needed. You know, so I grew up in a like a middle class household. I always had what I needed, and yeah, so we didn't go like on a lot of trips or anything like that, but you know, we had what we needed and it was happy. So I thought. So around the age of 12, hi Jay, um, my parents separated. Okay, and around that time, it's a crucial time. You know, you don't even know who or what you are yet, and I happened to be around some kids in school who were into drugs, and I tried it, and I was like so committed to feeling the effects of drugs. I remember like it started with marijuana, and like I didn't get high the first time I smoked it, or the second or third, fourth, fifth, 10th time. It was like the 20th time I smoked it, it had an effect on me finally. And because I always heard all these things about it, and I was very curious. And then I found like a way to kind of deal with all the baggage and just the emotional thing I was going through at that time, because like that meant the house had to go, the school district had to go. I didn't know who I was going to live with, where I was going to end up, and I think the thing that really hit me hard was like my parents. They raised me with all these like what I consider good morals and values and standards, and it was like all that was like when it like they went against that, all of a sudden it seemed like out of nowhere to me, and so my whole foundation was shattered, and I had no idea how to process that. So I processed it the only way I knew how at the time, which was to rebel. And I have a couple pictures just to paint the picture for you guys of that early rebellion in my life. I mean, I just didn't care. I didn't care about any authority, anyone, police. I did not care at all. Zero. You know, I was like negative care. And I didn't want anyone to care about me either, actually. But so from around that time, I mean, this is just like some pictures of what I had this spiked hair. I'm a 90s kid, and so the ball chain there, and I'm also a guitarist, so you got the red and spiked hair. Here's purple. That was where I grew up at. That's like, middle class neighborhood. Here's another picture. So just to kind of give you an idea, I was in like metal bands and stuff, and I was into that whole kind of life, that rock and roll lifestyle. And so anyway, we'll fast forward. So 12, I started. Some comments?
Well, I just wanted to say something. This gentleman right here, speaking of rock and roll, Jay Fox, radio broadcaster, syndicated, rock and roll guy. So you're talking to somebody who knows rock and roll. I just thought it would make that. There's thanks, Jay, for jumping on. Share this out, guys.
Awesome.
All right,
Cool.
but anyway,
Yeah.
back. Before we get back into that story, because you got into addiction or started using substances, and because you didn't know how to deal with what was happening as a young person, and kids see this all the time. They just don't know yet and how to deal with it. So you started that path. We're in an epidemic. Would you agree that
Absolutely.
with addictions and what's going on? And so my first question really is, seeing a child like yourself struggling, what are the signs that you could help maybe somebody that's out there who's never been around a drug culture or seen drug? What would be some of the signs that you can identify and help find an intervention somewhere along. Just a couple little signs that yours
Yeah,
was rebellion, right? You went
sure.
off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a sign, rebellion, rebellious attitude, like a sudden change, some kind of like sudden abrupt change, sneaking around, lying, manipulating, saying something like if I was asked something, or maybe coming home late, stinking like booze or weed, or those are some things. The people I was hanging around with, and what are they into, that's a good sign of like what I was into. So yeah, I mean, I'd say that was at that early age, that was like the main probably red flags to look out for. Just that like sneaking around, coming. I stopped listening. I changed. There was a change in me for sure, and I think intuitively we feel and we kind of know something's going on, but maybe we don't put our finger on it. Um, it's good to try to look at that, because my parents were so busy with their own situation that, and they didn't really know, and they didn't know how to deal with it either when they did kind of know. And I think they maybe thought like it was just a phase, or my dad caught me smoking when I was 12, and he was really mad, but I think he thought I would just get out of it quick or something. And so I'd say if you do catch those things, don't take them lightly for sure. Look into that a little bit, and be observant, and trust your intuition. Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, when the cat's away, the mice will play. That's right. so so
Yeah. So
yeah,
you started changing your behavior, rebellious. I thank you for sharing those pictures. I don't mean those pictures are going to categorize everybody that's out there, right?
right,
Uh,
right, absolutely not.
but you went from one what I don't even know what the word is proper, normal, but from one image to a radical image overnight, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Behavior.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it was that event was the teeter tot, like the point of tipping. It was that event of my parents' separation that just did it. I'm not saying what was me or anything, but that was just the trigger, the mechanism for my to catapult me into a world of an oblivious drug path. And yeah, it was just nuts. Um so I can say at the age of 13, right, I was introduced to heroin my first time, and I didn't use any needles. I just, it was a powder. I insufflated it, and I had done some other things, and it was like really quick for me. It was like I remember when I said I was like smoking weed with friends out back in an alley after school, and they were like dropping acid, and I asked them what's that, and they told me, and I'm like, oh, don't ever give me that. I don't ever want to do that. That scared the living daylights out of me. The very next weekend I was asking for it. And then so I was doing it like a week after them. And then that weekend they're doing ecstasy, and I would ask, what is that? And they told me, and I'm like, well, don't ever give me that. I want to try it. So the next weekend I'm asking for it, and it just kept going with different things. And I found it was like solace. I found this solace in the altered reality. And I can't say like all of it was horrible, especially at first. But so at 13 I tried heroin the first time. At 14 I started to one of my like friends. I mean, he was a friend, but we were both kind of screwed up. But he shot me up my first time at 14. And then by the time I was 15, I was a full blown junkie. I mean, like going down to the projects and ghettos, robbing drug dealers, stealing at 15 years old. I mean, I'm shooting up multiple times a day. And so like, I don't really know where I crossed the line. It was such a thin line. I don't know, but it was somewhere between 13, 14 years old. And I just crossed the invisible line. And before I knew it, I just had a problem. And my personality is kind of like, I like to see how far I can go with things, whether it's good or bad. I've since honed that in a lot, but back then it was like, how far can I take this? And I took it pretty far. My habit was just so far, and it's not about the amount or anything, even though the amounts and stuff I was using was just incomprehensible. I mean, I was taking like 3, 4 times lethal dosages of substances just to get high, not to kill myself. And it was just completely out of control. So fast forward a little bit, I'm 19. That same friend that you know shot me up my first time, um, me, him, and another buddy of ours, we went and got some more dope, and we came back to my apartment. I actually had an apartment when I was 18. Somehow I managed all that, and because I was so rebellious, I didn't want to be living with my mom or my dad, so I had to get out like as soon as I turned 18, and then it was just like game on, I have free reign, and we came back to my apartment, and he got high first, and he just went fell right to the ground and blue, and I was like, oh man. So I actually revived him. Um, and then I decided, okay, well, this must be really good stuff. So I'm going to go next. So, and I'll never forget it. So I had this needle full. It was like it looked like espresso. You couldn't even see through. It was so dark. And I just injected the whole thing. And within a matter of seconds, I just felt like I was being stung by like a million bees all over my body. And I said, oh man, I grabbed my head and I said, oh man, like, I don't know what to do with this. This is coming on really, really strong, stronger than I've ever felt. And I didn't even know how to act. I didn't know how to even compose myself. And for whatever reason, I went over to my couch. I kneeled on the floor and put my head on the couch. And then I stood up. And that was all I remember. Um, and then I become aware of this like nothingness, this black dark nothing, and I was having a near death experience is what was happening. So and it was like there's black nothingness, but I was aware of it, and then I felt like all the pain and suffering of everyone who had ever mourned me all at once. It's like an incomprehensible thing to kind of describe. And I felt that, and then I heard this like very firm but gentle man's voice say like, it's okay, everything is going to be okay. And he just said that a couple of times, and then I felt this overwhelming love, joy, and peace wash over me, and all that suffering was just gone. And like again, it's like incomprehensible, nothing I ever felt in my current state. And then the next thing, I started to slowly open my eyes, and there's this girl standing over top of me, a medic who I actually went to high school with. That we really didn't like each other, just didn't like each other. And here she's like saving my life. And I was told I was pronounced dead on arrival that day for 16 and a half minutes. They hit me with Narcan multiple times, which is a drug that's supposed to rip opiates right out of your system. Didn't do anything. They hit me with a defibrillator to shock my heart. Didn't do anything. And I had a friend I lived in this apartment complex, and there was a guy that lived downstairs. We were close, and he wasn't into this stuff then. And he used to just come up and come in. Like we were like brothers, he just would walk in. If the door was unlocked, he'd come in. And he happened to come in that day because I guess the other two guys I was with weren't doing anything. I guess they took my drugs and ran off because they were scared. So they were like, well, he won't need these. And they took what I had left and ran off. And from what I know, and he called 911, and they came. So fortunately that happened, or else I would have been dead. And so the last thing, he was begging, pleading with them to try something else, because they literally called my time of death, and he just like would not accept that. And so they said, okay, we'll try one more thing. And they hit me in the heart, like with a big needle of pure adrenaline, epinephrine, right in the heart. And I slowly opened my eyes, and they took me to the hospital, and I saw my mom stand there with the police and stuff crying, and they took me out on the stretcher, and they were putting me into the ambulance. And then here I see my mom speeding up the driveway, like she wasn't even there, but to me, I thought she was, and I'm like, wow, what's going on, And so for the next 24 hours, I was like so high, even after all that stuff that's supposed to rip the opiates out and everything. I mean, I was like throwing up, and that's how I just had a lot of junk in my system. And so I said, okay, I got to draw the line here. I think I found out how far I can take this. That's as far as I can take it, like that was a close one. And so on sheer willpower alone, I said, I'm going to quit. And mind you, I was doing about a brick to a brick and a half of this stuff of heroin every day. That's a lot. And that's several $100s a day habit, minimum. So I locked myself in my apartment, closed all the blinds, turned my phone off. And I just, for the next 3 weeks, I just went through this absolutely undescribable withdrawal that I was dying. I was dying. I couldn't move. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything but lay there in this unimaginable, it was just like every cell of my being was just in like being crushed with like the force of 1,000 suns. Like it was just like every single part of me. And about 2 weeks into this, so I'm laying there, like not sleeping, not eating, not drinking anything for like 2 weeks. Finally have enough strength to crawl to the bathroom. And I reach up and turn on the faucet. I'm like shaking and I got my hand wet and I just put a drop of water on my tongue. And just that drop of water made me so sick. I started throwing up my stomach lining because there was nothing in me. And so my stomach lining was coming up. And so, yeah, I don't know what I did after that. I think I just like laid there and about another week of that. And then I was finally I felt some relief after that, like third week, right at that 3 week point for me. So anyway, I got through that somehow. And mind you, I didn't go to rehab. I didn't have any support or support groups, or I didn't even know about that stuff, let alone accept the fact I was an addict. I don't even think I accepted that at that point. I just thought that drugs were the problem. And if I could just put the drugs down, everything would get better. Right. So I was able to do that. I put the drugs down for maybe 2 years. Started getting into bodybuilding, went through college. I actually got married. Was living in a house, like I was getting my life together. And yeah, somewhere along the way, I thought I could do it again. And my marriage was like going south. And I just turned to opiates. I started using some pills to just, I don't know, I guess cope. I hadn't really fully changed yet. And started just messing around with little stuff like that. And one thing led to another. And then me and my ex-wife, like separated. And yeah, I was working out of town, and I remember it was a Friday. I came back into town to a car wash, and I had just gotten paid. I had a pocket full of cash, and I needed change to wash my car, and I had a 10 was the smallest bill I had on me at the time. And so I go to the next like bay over. There's someone in there washing their car, and I say, hey, excuse me, do you have change for a 10? And he turned around. It's this kid from high school. This guy I knew, it's his little brother. And he's like, I know you. You're Ray Chobanian. You do like drugs. And I said, no, man, I don't, not anymore. And he opens his hand. He says, well, I have all these, and they're like stamp bags of heroin. And I said, oh, I'm good, man. Do you have change or not? And he's like, oh yeah, I got change. So he gives me change. I start to wash my car, and I swear I heard something click in my head, like just it was just put into drive. And I thought, well, I can do just one. And then I thought, well, I can't just buy one, who buys just one, so I have to buy at least a few. So I stop washing my car. I go over and I say, okay, let me get a few. And I went home and I sniffed them. And that was like that. I called him for more, and I was sniffing them for a little bit. And before you know it, I started shooting them again. And for the next 5 years or so after that, it was just a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a lot of great. Jay, thanks for putting your comments out there. Yeah, people need to hear this. There's a lot of dynamics behind it, and you had another setback in your life and disappointment in relationship, and that triggered that wanting to go back and do that again. So once a person has an addictive behavior, it's probably always there. It'll never really go away. You have to be aware of that. And so I know your story goes a little bit deeper, but you had an incident. We could maybe jump to this one thing. I saw your testimony, I mean, people need to hear it because the picture is not pretty. Hopefully, those that are out there on the fringes or thinking or in it, this paints a picture that no one wants to be in. Really, you had no intention to feel good, hide, suppress what's ever going on, but you had a part of your personality. I'm going to push it to the level, right?
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
that's a good trait in many ways, but you didn't have
Right.
anything to structure it. So you started again. And where did that lead? And tell us about the story that you were going to go fishing,
Yeah.
the incident at the where you were going fishing.
Yeah. So I did skip over that. So first, let me show you this picture. I was 18. This was a state I was in at 18 in my apartment. You can see paraphernalia and stuff, and there's stuff falling off the walls. And this is me high as a kite, like overweight, passed out on my couch, or my love seat, and you can see like stuff falling off the wall behind the couch. There was like stuff on the table, and there's like a chandelier on the ground. I mean, it was just this was how I lived. It was just disheveled mess. That was me, like all knotted out, high as a kite. So anyway, so yeah, right after that, I had the overdose when I was 19, and then so I had 3 months clean after I went through that 3 week period of brutal withdrawal. Me and a few friends, one of which was the guy who lived in the building that asked the paramedics to do one more thing. He was with me. He was a tall, lanky, like athletic guy. And anyway, we decided to go fishing, and we had to walk down this rocky riverbank to the river, the Allegheny River here in Pennsylvania. And I was carrying maybe 6 or 8 fishing poles. I had my arm wrapped around, and I had a big cooler in my other arm. So I was like packed up. We're going to walk down these boulders, right, to get to the river. And at the very top, a rock caught my toe, and I tried to catch myself, and it just gave me more momentum. And I fell head first. I fell about 40 feet over this like rocky cliff edge. And I landed head first, like right here on the sharp edge of a rock. And on the way down, like at the landing, I'll never, it was like bone crush, literally like bone being crushed in the impact. And another rock split my side wide open, like a foot long. I mean, I was split wide open. And I came to a stop, and I just was like, and I think in shock. And I stood up and I said, I need a cigarette. And anyway, that lanky, tall friend, he came running down, and fortunately I had a cell phone in my pocket because he didn't. And he pulled it out and called the ambulance, and this whole part of my head just fell. And blood was like shooting out. You could hear it like a garden hose. It was flowing through the rocks, and I was like just bleeding out like really, really quick. And they got me to lay down, and then they had to come on a boat, right? And they had to cut off all my clothes, and there was a bunch of onlookers at the top of this cliff edge looking over, and because it was in a residential area, the river wasn't too far from houses, and so I'm laying there naked, overweight, bleeding out, covered in blood. And they get me on this stretcher and into the boat, which was quite a feat for them because I was a little overweight. And they got a helicopter to land maybe a mile away in a parking lot. So they took the boat down, they put me on the helicopter, and I'm on the helicopter, and we're taking off, and everything's gray, fading away. And the medic, he's screaming at me like, keep your eyes. I was so tired. I just wanted to close my eyes and go to sleep. And he's like, keep your eyes open. He's just screaming at me. And I just heard a whisper. I just heard like a slight whisper, but I could tell he was screaming. And in that moment, I was just like, okay. And I just kept my eyes open because he was telling me to. I'm like, okay. I'm like, maybe that's a good idea. And I saw every scene of my life flash before me. Like they talk about like the Akashic records or something like that. I don't know. They say when your life flashes before your eyes. I seen like a slideshow of every scene of my life, like in an instant. And the next thing I remember is they were pulling me off the helicopter. Then I remember sitting in a wheelchair in an operating room, and there's a surgeon in front of me all suited up, and he's on the phone, and he has like something in his hand, a squirt bottle, and he's like, yeah, we got him here, and I'm gonna take care of him. I'm actually cleaning out his brain right now, and I think he's gonna be okay. And I'm thinking he's talking to another surgeon. And I find out later he's actually talking to my mother, and I was like, man. So anyway, I just sit there awake for 4.5 hours because I had lost 90% of the blood in my body. Right? I don't know how a human loses that much and lives, but I did. And so I sat there 4.5 hours while they cleaned out my head and all my wounds. I mean, I was so busted up, and they had 314 stitches in my head, 72 staples, and no, no medicine or pain medicine or anything for the surgery. I couldn't. I had like no blood in me, and it would have probably killed me. And so just they gave me a topical Novocaine for that, and I got through that. I mean, I was swollen. I was urinating blood for like 2 months. I had what they told me permanent brain damage, traumatic brain injury. They said if it would have the impact would have been 2 centimeters in any direction, it would have went through my head and killed me, is what they say. And temporary amnesia, like to the point if you'd be like, hey, Ray, how are you today? By the time you got to that last word today, I would have forgotten the beginning of the sentence. So it was just such an odd sensation. I couldn't really communicate because I couldn't remember what anybody said just in the course of 2 seconds. And that lasted for maybe 2 months. And then things started to come back. Go ahead. Yeah.
We got a lot of comments, and thanks to share this out. But Ray, when you had that instant falling head first down onto the rocks, were you high at that time, or were you still using drugs, or was that in it just?
No, I had like 3 months, 3 months clean. Now I don't think I was done,
Okay.
but yeah, at that moment, no, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, for clarity. So you started back again, then you started. You said maybe I shouldn't be doing this. You went go fishing, and you had an experience, a near death experience.
Another one, yep.
Yeah, and from after that incident, what started happening? What was that? Did you get back into drugs, or did you started a different course in your life?
So after that incident, I did start a bit of a different course. Yeah, I did take a journey, Jay. So in the hospital, right? They had me on morphine because I mean I was so busted up. They had me on an IV drip of morphine. They sent me home with like a prescription of Percocet, and so I got addicted because I didn't have that much time clean. My body became physically dependent on the opiates again while I was in the hospital. So I go home. I'm alone and just trying to heal, I guess. And like my friends had to carry me up the stairs into my apartment. I couldn't even walk. And I'm laying in my bed, and I guess I'm just like really withdrawing hard from the morphine. And I had woken up, and there was like 3 demons in my room, and there's a pentagram burning on the floor and candles, and they're chanting in some language and doing this dance around me and stuff. And then I like black out of fear, I think. And then I wake up again, and there's like Native Americans in my room and telling me this is like a rebirth and you need to be grateful. And they're showing me different things that they're into. And it was just a very transformative time. It was extremely transformative. Not my first or last brush with demonic entities either. We can go more into that. But yeah, so I got through that somehow. I just got through. I just wanted to, I just wanted to, and it was like a bit of a rebirth at that time. But I was changed. I was permanently changed from that moment on, and I ended up staying clean, like I said. So it was after that accident. So I had the overdose at 19. 3 months later, fell over the cliff, injury, and then stayed clean. And then I started to get my life together. Then I got into, working out, getting into shape, found my ex-wife, we got married and all that. And I went to college. And so it was like this few year period where I actually cleaned up. And then back into it, like our marriage started going south, and that incident at the car wash where I relapsed, and I thought I could do just one, but I had no other knowledge. I didn't have any other tools to work with. And little did I know, I couldn't, me personally, I couldn't just do one again. And it led me on I mean, man, like other relationships where I just was abused and just thought that that's what I deserved. I mean, I was so low, I couldn't hold a job to save my life. So I was dating this one girl who just wasn't good, was not good for me. We'll just say that. I mean, there's so many things in here that I could tell. I mean, but being shot at in the ghetto, like robbing these drug dealers multiple times, and it just the craziness of it. And you get into selling drugs yourself to try and support your habit, and that leads down another path. And then, SWAT team coming and closing down my neighborhood to try and catch me in the act and take me out. And all, man, it's just one thing after another, So this one girl I was with, I was living with her for a little bit, and it was just very, very bad relationship, very, very bad, very abusive. And I was working at a place. I had a car, and within the matter of 3 days, she broke up with me. I got fired from my job, and my car, the engine literally blew up. Right. And I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. There's no reason to continue on in this life. There's just nothing good. There's no way I can rebound from this. And I borrow her dad's car, and I go down to the city, and I gathered all the money I could get, and $230 maybe. And I go and I buy all the heroin I can get with that. And I'm going to end my life. I'm going to end it. And not my first suicide attempt either. But I get all the heroin I can get. I put it all in one needle and I shoot it. I go in this parking lot in Pittsburgh, in a populated area, and just shoot it all. And I go out. And then I come to, and it's like 4 a.m. And the first thought I had was like, oh shit, I'm still alive. Like, it didn't work. And then the next thought was like, man, I'm such a loser. I'm such a piece of crap. I can't even kill myself. And I just felt as hopeless as I think I could ever feel. Because it's like, there's no escape from this, man. You're not going to get out of this. You can't escape this like living hell you're in. And I just felt so hopeless. And so I had consequences to deal with because I was gone with this car, and I had lived. So I had to deal with that. And yeah, it just I was homeless. Make a long story short, I was homeless from that point on pretty much for a while. And I don't know. I was just doing whatever. I was just selling drugs, bouncing around wherever I could go. If I could sleep on a couch, I'd sleep on a couch, just here in the city. And it was like very unforgiving. And I thought maybe I should reach out for some help. I wasn't even convinced I needed help. I mean, but that's what addiction is like. It hijacks your brain into thinking you need this thing as badly as you need air. So you would do anything to get more air, right? Because you need it to live. So that's the state of mind I was in. And so I'm like, well, maybe I need help. Like, I am homeless. I don't have any money. I'm like robbing people just to get money, and I spend it all on drugs because I need it to survive. And maybe I'll ask for help. And this wasn't my first rehab. I mean, I was in psych wards when I was 17. I had another suicide attempt, and 2 police officers tried to stop me. I was going to rip my veins out with this like spiky knife, and I beat them with a baseball bat. Almost, I hurt them both, and fortunately they were alive. And I actually made amends with them since then. That's another part of the story we'll get into, is making amends. But yeah, so it wasn't my first time. I was in psych wards, rehabs, hospitals, detoxes. And then this last time I just said, man, maybe I need some help again. And I went in and kind of just surrendered. They say addiction is one of the only wars you can surrender and win. And it's true. Yeah, it's like an oxymoron, but it makes sense actually. And
Ray, could you say that again? That was profound, because I think hopefully that will touch somebody. That's a pretty powerful statement you made there. Could you go ahead and repeat that?
Yeah, so they say addiction is one of the only wars you can surrender and win. And I think there's more than just that war, if you will, if you want to call it that. I think there's a lot of things in life we need to surrender to win. You know, it's a daily thing. It's a daily reprieve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I learned that in this I went to this rehab, and this is just it's something to hear myself tell my story. It's crazy to me. I have a hard time believing I live this sometimes. And so I went in there and I went through detox again. Man, if I had $1 for every time I withdrawed cold turkey, man, I wouldn't have to work, but or have a business or anything. But anyway, so I went through this detox again. They put me into the rehab after the detox, and I think I had 19 days clean. Um, and I think that was like around November 9th or early November, we'll say, and 2014, I think. And they came to me one morning and said, Ray, we don't have funding for you. We have to send you home. And home was like my mom's, because that was the only place they could send me, like an actual address where someone responsible was there. And I said, I'm not ready to go, guys. Like, I'm scared. I can't do this. I'm not ready. And we're sorry. We have to let you go. And so they sent me home. And again, like 19 days clean. I mean, I don't even know anything yet. My head's still foggy, and so I start doing, I'm panicking. So I start doing what I know how to do. I'm like, I need to eat. I need money. I need to set up some drug deals. And that's what I did. And the afternoon of that day, they had actually called me back and they said, Ray, we got great news. We found you some funding. You can come back. Just be here by 11 p.m. tonight, and it'll be like you never left. We don't have to do anything to get you back, and you just come back. I said, great. So like in my mind, I heard you have a safe place to go. You can go and like still do these drug deals and go back, and you're going to be okay. And so I did that. I went through and did the deals and got high and went back to rehab. I made it right at 11 somehow. And they drug test me and they find drugs and they're like, did you get high? And I denied it. And they're like, you know what? Whatever, we're just going to let you come back in. At least you're here. And I remember I got like a standing ovation from the other people in there, because no one ever goes back to rehab. You all want to get out of rehab, and nobody goes back. I just wanted it. I just wanted it. Some part of me wanted it. Can't say my whole being wanted it, but some part of me wanted it. And that was enough. So I ended up staying there for 90 days. And then they said, well, you should probably go to a halfway house. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to do that. But it was February. It was cold. I didn't have anywhere to go. And I said, well, worst case scenario, I can leave if I don't like it. So I go to this halfway house and I'd like right 3 months clean. 2 days after I'm there, I get a call that my dad died. And 2 weeks after that, I called the lawyer to see if I have to do anything for paperwork. I mean, I was so distraught. I'm not even giving it the full. I didn't even know. I just didn't know. I didn't know what I was feeling, who I was, what was going on. So I called the lawyer and he says, well, your brother is power of attorney, but since he's dead now, we're going to have your aunt take care. And I said, wait a second, my brother is dead? And he's like, yeah, he just died like just a little bit ago. And I'm like, nobody told me that. And so it was like 2 weeks after, right? My dad dies, my brother dies. I didn't even really know. And then I had this huge thing at the halfway house I was in. They told me, you're not going to go to your dad's funeral. My brother was in another state, so I was like that was already like done. I couldn't do that. And so yeah, I actually had this huge resentment, because they said, you're not upset, you're not walking around here crying. You just want to leave to go to your dad's funeral so you can get high again. And I'm like, man, I'm here on my own. Like, I'm not here because a jail sent me or anything else. And I said, I couldn't be there for him while I was alive. At least let me be there for him in his death. Like, I don't know what else to do. It's all I got. And so I had to get like a minister, and that they had to like do a check on everything to come get me and take me. I had like a 2-hour window, and I went and just said my final piece to my dad, as he was in his casket. And And they took me back, and they didn't even drug test me when I got back. And they said they were going to. And I was like upset about that. I'm like, well, you said you were going to drug you. The reason I wanted to leave was to get high. And I'm like, drug test me. So I don't know. So I had to work through a lot of resentments and anger and rage. And all the guys, I was in there with like 40 some other guys, and all their craziness and personalities. And we're all living in this space together. And it was just, I had to figure out how to deal with this because I couldn't use drugs anymore, you know? And so I learned to just like accept people for where they are, and where they're at is okay. That's where they're at in their process. And once I did that, man, things got a lot easier. And I started to learn like acceptance was the key to this. And that started to really resolve a lot of my issues. I mean, I had just fits of rage. I didn't get upset and angry. I just went from zero to rage, you know? And I was just like a raging bull. And I was like out of control still. And actually, I was so screwed up from all the years of hiding my emotions and drug abuse that I didn't know what feelings were. Like, I really didn't. They actually had to sit me down with a list of emotions and their definitions, and I had to study them. And I circled the ones that I thought best applied to me. And then from there, I would sit down with therapists, and they would walk me through how you deal with each emotion. And that was where it took me, like the animalistic level. Literally, you're like an animal. And I mean, I was in there with some other guys in their like mid-50s that had to relearn the alphabet because they'd been getting high and drunk so long they didn't even know how to read or write anymore. And that's where it takes you. So anyway, I made it through that, and people are getting kicked out of there every single day for little things. I mean, it's called extreme behavioral modification therapy, and it is very extreme. And I'm like, man, I don't think I'm going to make it through this. And somehow, somehow I made it through, and I graduated, and I got my certificate and everything. And then from there, I went to a 3-quarter house for a year. And I remember getting there, and I just felt like I was literally reborn. I don't mean in like the religious sense or anything like that. I just mean I literally felt like a baby in a grown man's body. Like I had a rebirth. And like I need to get up to speed really quick because I'm not a baby. I'm a grown man, and people are going to expect me to act like one, you know, and I'll have responsibilities like a grown man. I'm no longer a kid. So I had to get up to speed really quick. You know, I was working. I actually landed this job as an architectural designer in the halfway house somehow, and then that didn't last because my brain I still wasn't cognitively available too much, so I couldn't hold that, and got another job and held that one, did really well there. And so I had this journey. Met a girl, moved in with her after the 3-quarter house, and we lived together for a while, and then that fizzled out, and I moved in with a guy who was supposed to be in recovery, a couple of years clean. And I moved into his house with him. And like the third night there, I find out he's not clean like he says he is. And he's like bringing homeless women in off the streets, and they're like shooting up and stuff in the house. I'm like, man, and I'm clean at this point. Like I'm legitimately clean. And I think I had over a year. I had maybe 2-3 years clean. And so I had to get out of there. So and I was actually unemployed at that time. And so I find myself like homeless again. And I had to leave though. I couldn't stay there for my own. I knew it's as long as I stay clean, it's going to be okay. Even if you're homeless, you don't have any, it's okay. Just don't get high, and it has to get better. You know, and I just held that idea in my mind. And I actually ended up staying with my mom for a few months, got another job. Got on my feet, and I was like something in engineering, applications engineer. Okay. And 6 months in, I have enough money to get a place. I'm leaving work to go sign the lease to my new place. And they say, as I'm walking out the door, they say, Ray, we have to have an emergency meeting. I'm like, man, I can't. I got to go meet this guy right now and sign his paperwork. Like, this is really important. I can't wait. I said, okay. So we sit down. And they said, we're not getting funding for our projects, and we can't afford your salary. We got to let you go. And we thought it would be unfair to let you go, sign that paperwork, give all your money, and then lose your job. And I'm like, wow, okay. So my mom's like, you know, you got to go. And I had it planned. I was leaving, and she's like, well, you still got to stick to that plan. And so I literally find myself homeless again, clean, you know, with like multiple years clean. And I'm just like, man, so at that time, I said, man, there's something I'm doing to get these results over and over again. What am I doing? It's not lack of funding. It's not, we're limiting the position, whatever the excuse is. What did I do to get these results? And from that moment, I actually stayed with a friend. I slept in her dining room under the table for a few months. I got a job under the table doing landscaping with another guy in recovery, and just enough to like pay my phone bill, gym membership, just a little bit of money, and eat. and yeah, I said, man, I got to really take a deep look at and like analyze, what did I do to get here? How was I thinking? What decisions did I make? And just backtrack. And I started to see, like, man, you're really not like fully believing in yourself. You still have some of this other lingering, like, I'm a loser thing going on. And that's no longer going to serve you anymore. So at that time, I had met my current girlfriend, and we went on our first date, and just like, it was just like we just hit it off immediately. And I just knew that she was it, and I just knew from like the first hour we spent together. And I didn't know how that was going to go. It was like interesting time in my life. And then to tell someone you're interested in who has it together, that you're homeless, you're like a recovering addict, and this is you just lost your job, all this stuff. And I just told her, and she had to process it, for a little bit. And she, for whatever reason, accepted it. And so things started going good with that. And I got another job. And then she asked, she said, why don't you just move in with me? And I did. And so that kind of took me out of that situation. And we're still together. And I've got coming up on 7.5 years clean now. November 25th, 2014 was that day I went back to rehab when I got high the last time. That was the last time I did that. And now today, I have my own business, which, that's incredible. Incredible is not even the word. They told me by the time I was 35, I'm 36 years old. The doctors told me by the time you're 35, you're going to be a vegetable. Your brain is going to continue to disintegrate every year until you don't even remember your mother's name or the closest people to you. You may not even know your own name. And you're gonna have to be like spoon fed. You're gonna be a vegetable, right? And I just said, okay. And I was just neutral. I didn't accept it or reject it. I just said, okay. And that's just not what I want. And I went through a lot of frustration. I couldn't do the engineering work for the longest time because my brain just didn't function. My memory wasn't there. And anyway, it's been pretty much restored. I wouldn't say 100, but pretty close. I'm not a vegetable, obviously. I think I have decent cognitive ability today. I can remember things. I know all the people around me. I know what's going on. So, no matter someone tells you what your future is or what is going to happen to you, just if it's not what you want, don't buy into it. It doesn't matter how hopeless it seems. I mean, that was a hopeless situation. I mean, that was hopeless, and it's been turned around. And so anyway, I've always believed in God, always, never struggled with that. And and I know for a fact, man, that's the only way. That's the only thing. These things that happen are far too extraordinary to make it through on my own human strength. It is. I mean, there is this other force that I call God that is there and that has gotten me through this. And like I said, I used to have like demonic attacks, trying to possess me, all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, like physical interactions with demons would show up in my life and they would attack me. And see, when you're putting something into you, you're putting a demon into you. Like a substance for me equals a demon. Like they call it wines and spirits, like spirits, like literally putting a spirit into you. And that opened this doorway. It opened this portal for these dark entities into my life. I was spiritually weak. I mean, I have actually suffered spiritual deaths, and if you haven't been through that, it's kind of hard to explain, but you have no integrity, no love, no respect, no trust, no any honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, all those spiritual principles where I was just a shell. I mean, just a shell. And I mean, I was at the point where I had to like, I would be crying with a needle in my arm, not wanting to do it, and inject it, and that drug would take over and the tears would stop. I mean, that's just how low I was. I mean, I was a monster. And yeah. And
So
anyway, so yeah, go ahead.
I just, I mean, uh, when I heard your story the first time, and there's so many moving parts to it, but you know, you said, there's a God, and God had something planned for you. And maybe the plan wasn't a pretty plan, but you're coming away with it. When I first met you, we followed up after we did a live stream, and we've had several conversations. And I said, people need to know this because we go through things, but there's your current relationship, God's working through her. That somebody cares about you, no matter what the history is. And God has an amazing way to work. And I know, you know, this is a life journey. I mean, it will always, I've heard other addiction people that have been through that process. It's work and continue. What do you lean into the most that keeps you grounded? I know you went through the Bob Proctor. Uh,
Yes.
and I know what Bob did in the past with people with addictive issues, and how we frame our thinking has a lot to do with it, and the universal laws of God. God creates all this for us.
Mm-hmm.
So taking where you've gone, and there's a lot of other pieces there. God has definitely had His hand uh, to give you more strength. I mean, how many people could do what you accomplished, come through? And so, what are you doing now to help other individuals? I know we got something scrolling here. Could you just
Yeah.
share a little bit about your mission now, your purpose?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, congratulations of having businesses and using your God gifts and talents. But what are you doing to stories like this are important, I believe. But what are you doing? We got some information scrolling across here.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Recovery Matters, a
Yes.
Christian addiction support group. Share a little bit
Yeah.
about what you're involved there with.
Sure. So just a quick story. So like I said, I met my current girlfriend, and she invited me. I just wanted to spend time with her. She invited me to her church. It was a Saturday night, and I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and then my dad was Presbyterian, so it was like holy wars growing up too. That was another thing that really like didn't help me. It screwed me up, just because of the battle of the two. We both believe that Christ died on the cross for us, but we believe different things about it, and very, very tough to get through all that, man. Very tough. So anyway, I go to her church. I'm a little uneasy about it. And I hear that where I get word, I think she mentioned, I think they had a recovery group here once. And I said, oh, okay. So anyway, I looked into it and they didn't have a recovery group anymore. And, she said that night, like, wouldn't that be something if you like led that group someday? And I just said, yeah. So that sent me on like, sorry, it's emotional, but sent me on like almost a 2-year path to get this group together. I talked to all the board, and I put this program together. And I did all this stuff and had meetings with the pastors and the elders and all this stuff. And I got this group together. It's called Recovery Matters, and it's a Christian addiction support group. And yeah, I started doing that about a year ago, actually. And yeah, so I do that, and so I use recovery based principles, and then the stuff like Bob Proctor teaches, like the mindset, and also Christian based stuff. Like we take a look at the Bible and see what it says about people who said, "Oh, I can't do that, God. Like that's not for me. You're picking the wrong guy." And okay, well, what happened? Like Moses, he was like a coward, and he ended up leading all these people out of. It's just phenomenal. So we interject all this, and for me, it was like levels, recovery, And then I learned some more stuff about the Bible, and then I was introduced to Bob Proctor, and I got all that knowledge, and I keep going through these different levels of consciousness. And so anyway, I've had some people that have been with me since the beginning of this recovery group, and their lives are just completely different. I mean, and just in like a year. And it's amazing. Bob always says, if you do this in a year, you're going to need a telescope to look back and see where you were. And I've seen that in my life, and I see it in their lives. And man, to me, there is no greater feeling than to know that you had a part in helping somebody else improve their life, and now they're giving that to their kids and their families and their coworkers. And so the impact is just profound. We don't know how big the impact of our actions is going to be. We don't know what we say, something that we might not even think of, and it hits somebody like a ton of bricks, and it just changes the whole course of their life. And it's phenomenal, man. So I know part of my purpose now is to do that, is to help other people recover on a large scale, not just a small scale. Helping one is enough for sure, but I want to do it real big. So that's part of my journey and my purpose. And if you know someone, or you yourself, or someone you might even think could benefit. I mean, I've had people come that just suffer with mental health. We try to keep it to recovering addicts, but I don't really turn people away too much. So at all, actually, I had families come that have a child that's suffering with addiction, just to try to gain some insight. So there's my email scrolling across the bottom. This is in Wexford, Pennsylvania. It's near Pittsburgh. The church is called Northway Christian Community. They have 8 locations in the Pittsburgh area. They're a pretty big church. I welcome you to send me an email, reach out to me if you just need to talk or get some insight, or, hey, what can I do about this? Or what am I doing that's maybe contributing to this? Because sometimes we enable our loved ones and we don't realize it. That was something that I know my parents did, and they just thought they were just trying to help, and they weren't helping. They were just adding fuel to the fire. So yeah, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you. And sometimes we do Zoom calls too. So if you're out of state, out of country, don't say, well, that must not be for me, because we do sometimes do some Zoom calls. We've even talked about having it in person and Zoom at the same time. That's in discussion right now. So yeah, man, that's what I'm doing, and on top of the business and everything else. And then I also have a podcast. We've been kind of dormant for the past couple months, but I have my story on there too. It's called the Legendary Living Podcast, and it is on YouTube. And the title of it is A Story for the Underdog, something to that effect. So yeah, there's a link to that specific video of my story. You might get a couple different things in there than I said here. There's so many things, it's hard to it's impossible to cover it all in an hour. But yeah, feel free to check that out. Share it with someone that you think it might help, because that's the point. I mean, none of this was me, man. Yeah, some of it was my choice, right? It was my choice, but it was the strength and the power of God and the Holy Spirit just working through and around me to get me to this point. And I do not take that lightly. And yeah, so hopefully he's moving and working around you now too, whether it's through me or something else, a voice in your head, I don't know. But if you feel compelled to share it or to come, then don't overthink it. Just do it. That's what don't overthink it, because you'll talk yourself right out of it every time. Yeah. So yeah, that's my offer.
Well, Ray, I'm going to say this. I'm going to have you, because my platform here is about gratitude. That's a spiritual principle. It opens the doors to peace, joy, love, all the other spiritual. And it's so important. No matter where you are today, would you agree this is, take a moment, be grateful what you have, that you have a breath, and that from this moment forward, you can change. The past is the past. We can learn from it, but we can't stay there. But if we can just get to that place of gratitude that, hey, I have a breath. I need to find out what my why is, my purpose. And God will work through and give you that. And I think that's what happened. Your mission was predestined to where you are today. I totally believe that God has his hands and it works with people for very specific reasons. And, I want to promote you. You're going to be on Mark Gassert and I's program Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, but we're going to talk about, we're not going to dive into what we talked about today, but we're going to talk about where you are today, your business and what you're doing from, we'll paint a little bit of that picture, but to where you're at today is a phenomenal story. And, I'm honored to know you. Look forward to get to know you more as we've started building some conversation relationship. But I needed to have people hear this story. You bring tears to my eyes. Okay,
Thanks,
I've
Tom.
had
Yeah.
my challenges in life, not to the extent of the type of addiction, but I was heading that path in my life, and I had somebody come into my life that brought God into my life. Otherwise, who knows where I would be. So it resonates with me, and I'm so excited that you were here today. What's your
Thank
last thought on gratitude?
Gratitude. I'd say be grateful for everything and even for the struggles, because I can honestly say, as you mentioned at the very beginning, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it, man. It made me who I am today. It gave me so much experience and culturing. Here, the God that I know and worship, he can take that ugly, broken, lost situation that seems completely hopeless and somehow turn it into your greatest asset that you can use for good. And that's something to be grateful for. So, like, no matter where you're at, because I always used to think, man, what's the good of this? What good could ever possibly come of this? And now I get to help other people, and that feeling of seeing them be successful is just, I can't even explain it. There's nothing else like that. So that's, yeah. And gratitude is an action word. I was also taught that it is an
Yeah.
action word. Yeah. So that's what I got to say about that. You're
And
welcome.
Jay Mader, thank you, Ray. I'm grateful you took the time to share your story today. And Jay will push that out to his audience, because we all know somebody within our families, our friends, our work environment, that families are struggling with addictions of all sorts. And so um, just be aware, and don't take this lightly. There are solutions out there, and we're out here to help people recognize it and hopefully bring a new level of awareness to this. It's a big problem in our culture today,
It
and
is.
you're lucky when you were using. You're not dealing with what's out in the street today, because there's no doubt you wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
What's come across.
Yep.
So I'm so grateful to have you on this program, and we're going to wrap it up. I tell you what, an hour goes in a hurry, doesn't it?
It sure does. Yeah. Thank you,
I would
Tom.
love to have you on again. We can talk with more light on the upside of gratitude, and uh, you know, and just be grateful for what's coming. You know,
Yes. Yes.
So, and I'm
Sounds great.
you and I know we can talk, because I'm a prodigy of Bob Proctor for 9 years now,
Yeah.
and so I know what that work does. So um, let's see. Jay,
Hey,
just make another comment here, and we'll wrap it up. Joanne said thank you.
you're very welcome. Hi, Joanne. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
everybody.
yeah, I'd love to have you as a guest in the future. So we'll talk about it in the future and make that happen again. So I'm going to put you in the blue room or the green room, and enjoy the M&Ms I got you. So I'm sorry I couldn't find the blue ones, but we got a whole thing of M&Ms back there for you. So
Thanks, Tom.
all
All
right, God bless you, my friend.
right.
Hang
Thanks,
tight. Don't
guys.
go away.
All right.
Amazing. You know, hearing those stories, hope it touched you ways touched me. We have situations out there that people need to hear, that there is hope, there is faith. And I like what Rex Sykes taught me the other day. He says, faith, we got to move beyond just faith to certainty, that the outcomes you seek, that God has a certain destination for you, and believe that wholeheartedly. And I appreciate Ray's story. You've got his information scrolling across the body. across the bottom here, so be free to reach out to them. And with that all said, everybody have a great day. It's through gratitude it empowers your greatest potential. Be grateful for this moment and embrace it, even the things that have been difficult in your life, because in there's nuggets of diamonds and gold that will carry you forward and have an outcome that's positive. So everybody have a great day.